Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna get started in a few minutes. I'm trying to get my camera set up the way I need it. And when you look at the caption of this live feed, it's real. Um, I'm concerned that we are taking stands and taking activism a bit too far. And the reason I say that is because a couple of hours ago, I was looking at the news. And as I was looking at the news, I saw that a gentleman at McDonald's, a gentleman that worked at McDonald's, decided not to serve a law enforcement officer because he was in uniform. And when I was listening to the law enforcement officer speaking his piece, for once my mind did not deflect and began to say, okay, well, what did he do to the person working at McDonald's for the person not to serve him? So this live feed is going to discuss what it means to be an activist and what it means to take a stand. Because at no time does activism mean disrespecting other people, and it does not mean infringing upon the rights of others. Now, my people, we got to do better, because you have to understand everybody is not bad, okay? Everybody is not bad. Now, let me clear the air with this first and foremost. Okay, MBG, while we do talk a lot about pro-black ideas, we talk a lot about trying to make sure that we are providing people with information conducive to our culture, but we also try to make sure that in everything that we do, we are encompassing, information that impacts everybody, okay? And so this live feed is about just that. I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned that you want to take a stand, you want to be an activist, but you don't know how. And if you don't know how, by God, I need you to ask. I need you to understand that everything that you think you should do does not mean that you should necessarily do it. Listen to what I'm saying. Everything that you feel you should do, it does not mean you should necessarily do it. Okay? What this means is sometimes you got to step back and say, okay, is this worth my energy? Now, don't get it twisted. I'm a person that I believe wholeheartedly in being fair. I believe in taking a stand and all of that, okay? But the issue lies when you infringe upon somebody else's rights because you feel that they're doing your people wrong, okay? I can't agree with that. So what I want to talk about is the only way for me to explain to you my viewpoint is to talk to you a little bit about where I came from, and to talk to you a little bit about how I have dealt with the injustices that I felt, how I have dealt with some of the injustices that I've dealt with in my lifetime, and kind of give you information and provide you with some tools to help you maneuver through that. So let me do just that. So my first encounter with discrimination came about when I was about 10 years old. And at that time, I was in a program, academically gifted program. And so what transpired was that in this program, we were required to, it was Black History Month, and we were required to work on the Black History Project. And so when it came time to work on the Black History Project, my Caucasian teacher said to me, well, no, you don't need to do a Black History Project. You need to do a Native American project. You can do your project on Geronimo. Well, I was taught to respect authority. So I'm like, okay, if my teacher tells me I need to do a project on Geronimo, I'm going to do just that. Well, when I got home to tell my mother what had transpired, my mother's question was, well, why do you need to do a project on the Native American for Black History Month? You are Black. It's Black History Month. Why aren't you doing a project on an African American? My 10-year-old answer, I don't know, Mommy. The teacher said this is what we're doing, so this is what we're doing. Mommy says, no, that's not what you're doing, and I'm going up to that school. Now, when my mother went up to the school, it wasn't going to the school in a negative manner. Basically, Mom was going to the school because she wanted to know why was it that her daughter was doing a project on a Native American during Black History Month. Well, what it came to be is that was my first encounter with racism. The conversation, while I was not engaged in the conversation, after my mother talked with her, then went and talked to the principal and explained what happened, I found out that basically she told my mother that I thought I knew it all and I used too many big words in class. So basically I was a 10-year-old show off, and the other thing was I was the only African American female in that 5th grade academically gifted program, at the time. And so I never realized how that affected me until I began to not want to go to school. Now, up until 5th grade, I would go to school throwing up. I want to go to school. But that particular year, I didn't want to go to school. I hated going to school. I felt like I had to be somebody else. In the mind, 10 years old. And then I got to a point where I didn't want white teachers. If I had a white teacher, it was going to be a conflict. And it wasn't until I got to 9th grade that I entered into a math class, an advanced math class. And the teacher looked at me and said, whoever did it, I'm not them. At that point, did I understand that I was hurt by what happened to me at 10 years old, and I was unable to address it or get over it until 9th grade. Now, that situation has stuck with me, okay? To this day, I'm always skeptical when I'm in a situation where I'm the only African American and I feel that my integrity is being questioned. I feel that I'm being judged and things of that nature, okay? Because the reality is that just all too often, we, and I'm going to say we as a black race of people, are always questioned because of something. Okay? And so I say that to say, I understand what's going on in our community. Okay? I understand that when a white officer shoots a black man down in the street, it's okay. I understand that when a white officer or a collection of white officers allows a young lady to die in a prison cell, it's okay. What I don't understand is why we still cannot come together and try to work on this thing when we know it's wrong. Like, we know that there is something wrong. We know that there are things going on in our communities that we need to work on, but yet and still we continue to kill each other. We continue to backbite against each other. We continue to host illegitimate business practices. We continue to do all the things that are not conducive to good 21st century living. And so that's where MBG comes in, okay? At no time will MBG tell you that it's appropriate to disrespect a law enforcement officer, any public safety officers, anybody for that matter. At no time will you hear that from us, okay? What you will hear is, you will hear that we must do something, and we have to stop accepting everything, and we have to stop saying that everything is okay. These are the things that we have to do. We have to stop, we have to stop accepting less than equity, okay? Because equality, my issue is that we fought for inclusion. To be honest with you, we never needed to be included. We just needed equity. We needed equity in justice. We needed equity in the process. We needed equity in economics. We needed equity. Because the reality is that equity is an individual that's 6 feet tall, an individual that's 5'4", and an individual that's 6'6". And equity means that if I set my standard to 7 feet, the person that's 6'6" gets a 6-inch block to stand on. The person that's 5'4" gets a block that's 1 foot 8 inches to stand on. Okay, like that's what equity is. Equity is making sure that there is balance for everyone. Equality means that everything is equal. And one thing I will accept, everything will never be equal. But if you can assure me that I can have equity in the process, then I'll work with you. How do we get equity in the process? Number one, you get equity in the process by participating in the process. You get equity in the process by participating in the process. You cannot get equity in the process if you're not participating, baby. The other thing is, you can't get equity in the process by getting likes on Facebook. That's not how you get equity. So many people brag about, oh, I got, 5,000 friends. I had to get another Facebook page. That's not the point. That's not what it's about. What it's about is, it's about making sure that everything that we work on is something that's going to do something for somebody else. The reality is that everything that we do and everything that we set out to accomplish, we've got to make sure that we are striving for equity. I don't know how many times I step into a room and I am the only African-American female in the room. And if I'm not the only African-American female in the room, I'm the only African-American female in the room that's in my age bracket, and that's a problem. The other issue is this. Guys, I need you to pull your pants up. I need you to pull your pants up. Nobody is going to take you serious with your pants hanging off of your backside. I'm just being honest with you. No one is going to take you serious with your pants hanging off your backside. I need you to pull your pants up, and I need you to understand there is equity. There is equity out there. But the only way you can achieve equity, you have to go out and grab it. You cannot achieve equity without going out and grabbing it. And the reality is this. You got to stop being a consumer and start being a producer. I don't know what's going on with you individuals, you mothers and fathers out there that are not trying to make your kids be producers. You teaching them to be consumers. Stop buying them $200 shoes. Stop buying them iPhones. Stop buying them Xboxes and PlayStation. Buy them a laptop. Put that money, pay the $35 to the school so your child can have a laptop for the whole year. I cannot tell you enough. I cannot preach this enough. We have enough black children locked up. We have enough black children in foster care. We have enough black children who are strung out on drugs, who are born into this world on drugs. We don't need any more. There are government officials who are trying to make deals with prisoners where if they sterilize themselves, they can get time off of their jail sentences. What do you think that means? What do you think that means? What that simply means is that it's game over. What that means is what we're going to do is the best way to get rid of this population is genocide. It's not right. It's not right. And you know, I was reading an article that one of our faithful supporters, Adam Newsom, tagged Amber and I in, and it talked about everything isn't about race. And, why is it that we as African Americans make everything about race? And to a certain degree, I will agree with that. I sincerely believe, no, everything is not about race. However, it is about buying power. It is about socioeconomic status. And what has happened is black men, the majority of the black people fall into that middle class or that impoverished class. So while it's not always about race, because we do not produce, we consume, and when we do produce, we're producing less than grade A products. We're buying products from China, bringing them back over here, selling them to our people for triple and quadruple what we paid for it. Come on, people. Come on. I can't do this. I need my peer group. I need you to become producers. I need you to teach your kids to become producers. Because this is getting to be too much. It's getting to be too much. I'm tired of waking up and seeing that somebody is constantly getting shot. I'm tired of waking up and seeing that when a black man gets killed, his entire history from birth is pulled. But when a white woman gets killed, she was the most innocent victim of a police officer initiated shooting ever. Wake up, guys. Wake up. I don't know what to say, because while my heart hurts, I'm mad, but I'm more sad than anything. I'm the most sad because African American culture is it's a beautiful thing. African American culture means love. It just, African American culture. Okay, first of all, let's back up. Let's talk about some of the stereotypical aspects associated with African American culture. Let's do that first, because I feel compelled to talk about that first, and I hope my tablet stay up there. Okay, first things first. When we get to talking about African American culture, right? The first thing you think of, African Americans are more violent than others. African Americans are less intelligent than others. African Americans are lazy and irresponsible. They blame everyone else for their problems. And African Americans are resentful troublemakers. Now, every stereotype that exists about African American culture is what is presented to justify a police, I'm not going to say an African American getting shot. I'm going to say a police officer being released or acquitted of charges when an African American male is killed. Now I need you to listen to what I said. Typical stereotypes of African American: that we're more violent than others, we're less intelligent than others, we're lazy and irresponsible, we blame everyone else for our problems, and we're resentful and we're troublemakers, okay? Now, the other part of that is that I need you to understand the connections to why those stereotypes exist. Number one, slavery kept people illiterate and ignorant. Slavery stripped us of culture and customs, and slavery brutalized us. Number two, post-slavery. Guys, from 1865 to 1965, 100 years, we were free but segregated. You had segregation de facto in the North, but it was legal in the South. Then you had those European American rationalizations that denied the humanness of African Americans, and they supported segregation. They supported separate but equal. And what did that do? That ignored the issue. Then you had the movement towards true equality, and that's where the conflict came in. Because there was a conflict between W.E.B. Du Bois, who said fight for it, against Booker T. Washington, who said, oh, work hard, you'll make it. Well, Martin Luther King, to a certain extent, was like Booker T. And W.E.B. Du Bois and Malcolm X lined up. So there's always been conflicting opinions when it came to African Americans growing up and fighting for what they wanted, okay? Now, as African Americans, we really only have 3 tiers of progress, okay? Middle class, which means those who own homes, those who are educated, and those who have spiritual and religious affiliations. Then you have that underclass that's 23% or more below the poverty line. A lot of them are in prison, racial profiling, and deindustrialization in America impacted that. And then you just have those individuals who are struggling in between. Like, there is a such thing as the glass ceiling. Okay? There's a such thing as the glass ceiling, and hitting that glass ceiling results in a lack of opportunity and upward mobility, because when you hit that glass ceiling, you can't go any higher. You can't go any higher. And President Obama is a prime example of that. President Obama was the president of the United States, and he still experienced prejudice, discrimination, and racism. Another obstacle. Black people feel like in order for them to go above and beyond the glass ceiling, they feel pressured to undermine or drop their African American identity. I'm sorry. If you black, you black. You can't deny who you are just because you're embarrassed about your culture. Okay? And to be honest with you, if you don't want to be black, Sammy Sosa, then you just need to do whatever it is that you need to do to get by. The reality is this. While we have to prove ourselves over and over again, and I can give you a prime example of that, okay? Many of you know for the past couple of weeks, I was at NASA working on a project, and I experienced that. I was in a group, and every time I offered up input, it was questioned. Even down to my mathematical calculations, everything was questioned. However, when it came time for qualitative data and resources, when I kept my mouth shut and just did what I needed to do on my own paper and ended up with the right answer, why didn't you say something? That's what I was asked. My response was, well, you're the expert. When I offered information before, you wouldn't receive it. So once I see that I'm not being received, I know how to step back and do Lily Mae. And once again, it took me back to that 5th grade classroom where I was the only African American female in the room, and yet I had to prove myself. All because somebody else felt threatened or intimidated. I want to address Adam. Adam is a faithful supporter of MBG, and Adam said that the biggest thing I took from the article is how oppression can be so embedded in society that it becomes almost invisible, even becoming a part of culture, that we don't even understand what we're really saying and doing, and we don't even care. We just ignore it. Use words and make cultural references that oppress others or hell, even ourselves. Adam, that is so freaking true. I don't, Adam, oddly enough, I don't know how we come back from that. We're at a point where people have no respect for one another. People no longer care for one another. That's why I'm compelled to really talk about what real African American core values are. Real pure African American core values encompass sharing, expressing personal style, being real and genuine, being assertive, bouncing back from the foolishness, distrusting the mainstream establishment. Now, that is something that is a core value of African American culture, okay? I'm going to tell you the truth. That distrust for the establishment is definitely something that African Americans really and truly exhibit. And I say that because what you guys don't understand is that you have to understand that African Americans have been dealing with this for a long time, okay? And what ends up happening is that we get to a position where we really cannot function, okay? We can't really function the way we need to because we have so many people in our ear telling us that we have to act a certain way. We have to do certain things in order to be accepted. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I decided that I'm not going to change who I am to be accepted. That's what I decided. I can't speak for anybody else, nor do I want to speak for anybody else, but that's what I decided. I decided that I will not change who I am to be accepted, that I will be who I am. I will continue to do what I'm doing, and whoever doesn't like it can just chalk it up because you will not stop my flow. But let's get back to the topic at hand, because my ultimate goal tonight is to educate you on African American culture, educate you on African American core values and customs. So, one thing about an African American community is that church plays a major role in social change. However, our churches have gotten so money hungry that we're forgetting that social justice is a part of our Christian duty. A part of our Christian duty is social justice, but we've gotten so caught up in everything else that we've forgotten about that. The other thing is we've forgotten that in our family life, extended families, those neighbors, those play aunties and uncles, play a significant part in raising your children, as well as strict no-nonsense discipline. But see, I'm going to tell you what happened. When those child abuse laws came into play, and a lot of that came, with the integration of schools, because black teachers were not going to be whipping white children. I'm sorry. That's just the reality of it. And so a lot of that impacted us simply because we believe in putting fire to our kids' booties. I know I got my butt torn up a whole lot. Betty Lou didn't play. You know what I'm saying? My dad was the scolder. My dad could just look at me and I'd cry. But my mom, she whooped my butt. And I thank God for that. So there are some barriers that we have to tear down. And I'm not going to be long-winded with this thing, but there are some barriers that we have to tear down. And one of those barriers is that failure cycle. We have to break out of lowered expectations, okay? We have to break out of lowered expectations. And the only way to break out of lowered expectations is to assume that you can master any intellectual task. You can master them. You have self-confidence in your ability to master tasks. You have willingness to put forth the effort to master intellectual tasks. And you have to master those intellectual skills also. That means get educated. All right, secondly, you got to break through that glass ceiling, okay? You got history against you. You got career issues against you. And you also have coaching needs and strategies. Listen to me. You got to boost your self-esteem and confidence. You do not have to act white or repress your ethnicity. All you have to do is show respect, respect yourself, and show everybody that you can do what you set out to do. The final thing is you have to coach. We have to network and build relationships. Amber and I would do a whole nother segment on what networking is. But you also have to monitor and develop career strategies, okay? Number 3, this is the third barrier. We got to break through the blocks at each career phase, okay? Find mentors that are where you want to be, okay? You got to deal with your own anger and frustration, guys. And see, I can attest to that because I'm still working through that. I'm still learning to deal with my own anger and frustration because of what happened to me in 5th grade with my teacher. So, know that failure is not an option. But always use protective hesitation, meaning don't be so quick to jump on the first opportunity that comes to you because you might be selling your soul for a devil. You have to, the other thing is, in order for you to break through those blocks, you got to build on your African American strengths. And as African Americans, what you don't know is that one of our strengths is planning, creating, and problem solving. Guys, think about it. Frederick Douglass inspired slaves to plan, develop, and execute, setting themselves free. Okay? What that means is that we are an asset to teams. We are creative. We are assertive in expressing our feelings, and we believe in direct communication. Not disrespectful, but direct communication. Another one of our African American strengths are building relationships. Think about it, guys. On the plantations, we had to work so hard with each other. So we're people focused. Remember when we sang the hymns? Remember when we had to share buckets to wash in? We are people focused. We know how to express our feelings. And guys, the other part is you have to connect with your marketplace. But like I said earlier, black business owners, you got to provide a quality product. I'm not going to be, long-winded. I'm passionate about this thing. Thank you to those of you who tuned in. I'm I'm your girl, Lily Mae, Motivational Brown Girls, and this segment is about African American customs, cultures, stereotypes, barriers, and strengths. I hope that something that I've said will help you. If you need me, please Facebook me, Lily Mae Official MBG. Please like the Motivational Brown Girls page on Facebook. Join the Motivational Brown Girls group on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. You can see any of our back episodes. And please understand, Motivational Brown Girls is here to inform and educate. We're here to inform and educate you on how to become self-aware, to introduce you to self-love, to introduce you to self-acceptance and self-assurance, self-evaluation. Then and only then can we motivate and inspire you to become agents of change. Once again, I'm your girl, Lily Mae, straight off the block of Motivational Brown Girls, and I hope you have a great evening.